Hi, everybody. Welcome to Gastronomica, an evening with Rachita Chauhan, where we discuss kitchen by the book. And let's just wait while she joins us. Today we are going to discuss what does your plate say, basically, and to talk about that, we have Rachita with us. Rachita Chauhan will be joining us in a short while. Um,
Hi.
Hi, Rachita. Welcome. And as we were talking about, we will be discussing gastronomica and how what choices we make in life kind of shape our palate, as in by we, I of course mean women. And let me introduce Rachita to you a bit. Rachita is an actor, a model, an army wife, and a fellow gastronome. And we'll just wait for more people to join us.
Absolutely. I took the time to kind of fix myself a cup of coffee. So, what's
Good.
a food conversation without a cup of coffee?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, fellow gastronome to fellow gastronome, I think this is something which hits home, I guess. Women
Oh,
and
yes,
food.
yes. We met over food actually, the first time we met. And I think we continued to meet over food, of course, for other reasons, but food was essential to part, like, a part of it. Whether we were talking about it, whether we were cooking it or eating it, food was there. So, yes, it's important that we talk about it at length. And Ragini has joined us. Hi, Ragini.
So, uh, as such, with Theascape, it's a wonderful endeavor that you're doing, that you're at least speaking about the things that most people shy away from.
Oh, yes. And one of the reasons we are doing this is I think this happens to mostly us as women that people do shy away from a lot of womenly topic and we somehow are exposed to it far more than, say, a lot of other people earlier on. And that's why I think in time we come to realize and appreciate the trouble that other people have to go through with different aspects of their life. But of course, today we are on a relaxed platform. Okay, slightly on the unrelaxed curve somewhere, but we'll get to it. But yeah, we have more people joining us. Um, Sita, let's begin. Uh, According to you, the sense of life can be essentially summarized by what's on your plate. So, what's cooking in your kitchen by that sense?
We had for today. In terms of women empowerment, I made the man cook. So he has been flipping his dosas non-stop for the last 2 days. Uh, However, again, dosa is something which is again what I'm going to talk about it. Alien to him being a North Indian. However, the way the palate works is that women have the way of creeping in. So instead of the parathas that he's used to, we have dosas.
So, a good compromise, but satiates your palate.
Yeah, it does. So, essentially, if you look at it, when I talk about food on your plate, it's something very essential for us. And the moment we talk about food, there's something that always crops up is my mother's food, my grandmother's food. So, माँ के हाथ के खाना, नानी का खाना, दादी का खाना will always crop up. However, if you look at it, it's also an extremely time-consuming job. And the kind of culture that we come from, we have like 3 meals a day plus snacks, and as we Bengalis call it jol khabar, the jol
Welcome.
khabar and everything. So at the end of the day, we are stuck in the kitchen throughout.
Yes. There's something or the other happening there.
So these, before I begin with anything else, I just have to say that all these views are my personal. So my understanding of feminism is also a personal choice, because feminism to me means that I have a choice to express my views, right?
Right.
So expressing the choice of feminism, I would like to look into the factor that whether this uh, teen time ka khana and plus and plus and plus, whether it's an oppression or is it a powerful thing that we are not really exploiting, or
Very true. Very true.
uh,
It's how you look at it. It's your perspective, how you look at it. It just might
yeah.
change the entire dynamics of how we think about it. So yes,
Feminism today, though it is there in vogue and it's very important that it is, I also feel that we are somehow losing the power that we had, and we are trying to be men. We are not men, we are women. And that's a bigger power that we have, no matter what anybody says, no matter what anybody thinks. And the food is the best way that I can explain it to you, or my way of feminism. So I'm all sitting with my notes so that I'm going to refer to them, because I have a whole lot of points to share. And so if you look at it, what shapes our understanding? Our, our food also definitely shapes our understanding of the world. We call it the mukhe bhate, or
right.
even if you go before that, we have the mother's milk, without which the child can't survive. So the, from the food that we eat is something that we connect to another person. And for centuries, we the women have the locks and the keys to that domain. The passing of family history is done in the kitchen. When, if you look at it, somebody who's just got married and she walks into another kitchen, she is carrying with herself the food of her childhood.
Of her father and her child. Yes.
And she will be initiated into the food of the family. The family history is being passed on, and there will be changes.
Very
The
changes. Yeah.
techniques, there will be tiny, minor bits which will creep in without anybody knowing, without everybody claiming that it is not a revolution of a huge sort, but it's a very subtle way to influence how we look at society. Now, if you look at it, that you are cutting, you're chopping, you're cooking, and your choice of vegetables and your choice of food, so as to say. Let me take you to a much more personal example. Rajma. Rajma is something which is extremely loved by most people. And the popular understanding of Rajma is Rajma with a lot of tomato sauce or a lot of tomato puree. That is what we understand as Rajma. However, Rajma is much more than that. The Himachali Rajma is not made with tomato sauce, it's made with curd. There is no
Ah,
tomato in that entire preparation. The Rajma that is prevalent is the Punjabi Rajma.
uh-huh.
Now, if you walk into a kitchen and there is a Punjabi wife, Himachal has both sides because it's very close to Punjab. So if you walk into a kitchen and there is a wife who comes from a region which is more near to Punjab, you will see that she's going to feed her children the rajma with the tomato puree, as opposed to the rajma with the curd, which is possibly the family tradition. And there you make the first change. You look at garam masala. Now, when you look around, garam masala in India can be made in a zillion different ways. The Maharashtrian Goda masala is a garam masala. The Bengali garam masala is completely different from the Punjabi garam masala. Now, when a woman is initiated into the house, or when a woman gets into the kitchen, or even if a woman is just learning to cook, like, people like us who have learned to cook subsequently, and we are looking at things from the internet and looking at and following the recipe, there would be some amount of cultural differentiation which will suddenly walk into it. I have my friend Himangi who has joined me here. Now, Himangi is a fabulous chef. She is a Maharashtrian, and she taught me how to come to terms with the Goda masala, and I didn't even know that Goda masala was a type of garam masala. It was much later that I came to know. Now, when I am feeding my child, what do I use? I'm a Bengali by birth. I am married to a Rajput who settled in Himachal. Now, in a cosmopolitan environment like that, I have the say to pass on what I want to pass on. So that, to me, is also woman empowerment. Why should I let that power go? In the
Let's
same
take
way,
going on.
pardon me?
I said, let's get hold of whatever we are getting and make the best of it. Does
Absolutely.
being an army brat have a lot to do with this, this experience where you go through so many taste palettes and you adopt and I seriously know about the garam masala. And does that have a lot to do with you being an army brat that you used to go from place to
See,
place to get that chance to meet
being
new people?
being an army
Because
brat
things are like
in a
very
way, yes.
cosmopolitan thing.
Being an army brat, yes, it made me open to a lot of flavors, and I'm more open to experimentation, definitely. However, it also is because of the fact that my mother is somebody who was ready to experiment.
Ah,
So she was ready to cook food from different cultures. Now, that is women empowerment to me. I choose what I feed my child, and I make a difference there. I, if you look at things from food and politics have always been interlinked. I will not go into a major food politics discussion, but even if you look at the Sepoy Mutiny, there cannot be a more striking example than food and politics. That is the
right.
macro level. Now let's go to the micro level of the home. In the home, there will be like nuclear family is a new concept in India. I'll still call it new because it started off with our parents essentially. Before that, it was a joint family. Now, in a joint family, there would be at least four women folk who would be involved in the kitchen.
Right.
Now, everybody, even if they are all from Bengal, I'm just taking the concept of Bengal because a lot of people would understand it. There would be Bangal Ghoti.
Yes.
Now, whether you put haldi in the aloo posto or not, that too is politics. And who wins? And the part of that food is going to be served to the entire family. That is also a part of the power play. It is the kitchen power play. And kitchen has always been a big power play portion. Like, let's not go. I'll get back to our Indian society, but if you read something like The Kitchen Confidential, I was just reading Anthony Bourdain's book. Kitchen has always been a place of power play. There is always going to be so many dynamics which are involved, which even so far as women are concerned, has always worked its way. As I was growing up, we had this entire thing of whether it is kopi, kofi, or gobi, because my father's side would call it kofi, and my mother's side will call it kopi. Saraswati Pujo, and you had something like a Gota Sheddo. Now, Gota Sheddo apparently is a very Ghoti thing.
Yes, it
Ghoti
is.
and Bengal, it's East Bengal and West Bengal, and this again goes to the partition stories. So
And I think we are still in the confines of one state of India. There are more, and there are more varieties of palettes going on there. So we are still stuck on the within the one boundary of one state, and we've got so much of variety going on, so much of kitchen politics, and whoever wins shapes them all. This kind of thing going on.
yeah, because there are times when you call when we have heard that Jethimar cooking was better. Now, Jethima is, your father's elder brother's wife. So at the end of the day, Jethima, I guess, she had much better hold on the kitchen than possibly your own mother did, and that shaped that entire family and the circle of the circle. Kobe Anna, no, not really. But thank you, Asim, for adding to that. And now going back to Punjab, India's one of the biggest exports has been food, other than Bollywood. Now, when you say about chicken tikka, you talk about butter chicken. Now, everywhere you go, you will find chicken tikka, butter chicken in UK, and everybody loves it. You yourself have.
That's UK's unofficial national food, chicken tikka masala. I didn't even know it existed till I got there. I'm like, okay, so that's there. That's gone before I have done.
So it is the way we have creeped into the palate slowly, slowly, slowly. However, the way the chicken tikka is made at home and the way the chicken tikka is made there, it's just a completely different thing. And so even if you eat it, you're sitting there, and even if you eat it, you are wondering like, this is not
This is not
that one.
chicken tikka. This is not. Yeah,
This is
I know.
not chicken tikka. And that will get you into a whole lot of conversation as to where does this come from. And that is the sector that is shaped by your home, and mostly your mother or your grandmother. That taste is shaped by the women of the house. Looking back, if you look at it, because why would you go and eat chicken tikka out there? It's because you were trying to look back with nostalgia,
To
and
your
that
own.
nostalgia, yeah, and that nostalgia itself is shaped by your taste buds.
Right.
If you look at
Right.
the stories that you are told when you are about food, and mostly they're told by women, that Ganesh likes modak. In Maharashtra, it will be Ganesh likes modak. In Bengal, it will be he will have this thing. Amader Nadu Gopal, but otherwise Laddu or something like. So that also changes with your family. That
Yeah.
also changes with you, and that is told by the women of those stories are told by the women of the family. The food stories are told by the women of the family, and uh, that itself shapes our understanding of the world. If we are I used to see during Durga Puja, because we used to go back to our old house at that point of time, all the aunts of the house, they used to sit together, and somebody would be cutting, somebody would be chopping, and they would be talking. That one place becomes the center of understanding the functioning of the entire family. certain decisions taken there will affect the family when you go back to your origin, to your homes, whether even if you live abroad. So something like that, something you don't pay attention to what is happening in the kitchen. You most of the times you kind of look at that, the men are deciding the things for the family out there. But a long time back, I in this movie I heard this, that a man might be the head of the house. That's how they want to perceive it. But the woman is the neck. So essentially, it goes like this, right? So those are mostly kitchen decisions.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Because your voice means I can't hear
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah. I
properly.
can hear you. I can hear you.
Uh, if you look at literature, Jhumpa Lahiri wrote The Namesake. In The Namesake, I believe, in the beginning, Oshima was trying to make moody with rice flakes.
Right.
She was trying to get the flavor of home. And that would be something that even after going all the way there, would be somehow passed to the children. Those stories, I used to go to that corner to eat this, like what my child would know as an egg roll would be the egg roll which we find on the streets of Calcutta. It will not be the thing which is a Frankie.
Right.
So
Right.
I am also, the woman is also affecting the consumer, the decision of consumption also.
Very true. Very true.
So that way, even as a military child, because you kind of brought it up, uh, the first thing that we used to go and do was find a fish market at every station. And we would have to, and my mother was very particular about that it had to be cut into peti and daga. It does not matter who is coming home for dinner. If my mother is cooking fish, it has to be peti and daga. Now that too comes into culinary diplomacy. Because when I am calling somebody else home, the person is coming and sitting and eating with me. The person is accepting my flavors, my outlook to the food. Now, these might seem very subtle things to look at, but it's always a butterfly effect.
It is. It is. It is. It has a very long-term effect on definitely your own family, what your child will choose as an adult. It's going to be the reminiscence of the flavors of what you have actually gotten him used to. Dal is going to be like this, and roti has to be like this, the tarka has to be like that's kind of gets built into the system, I think. Whether we are like male or a female side, so that is not the question here. But yes, the woman does shape the palate. There is no denying that. Absolutely no denying that.
And you really can't think ill with a full tummy. Once your tummy is satiated, you have made lifelong bonds. If somebody has come to your home and they have shared food with you, they have enjoyed food with you, you're making lifelong bonds. That part is definitely something which is not so subtle. And if I look at it into a very different way also, it's not a very good analogy in terms of women empowerment, so as to say, but in the British novels, you used to often hear that, read that women are more inclined to poisoning. I
Yes.
know, yeah, right. Why? Because we have access to your mouth. We can feed you that poison, so you better not take pangas with us. So,
हमारे बीच पीछे they would mix poison. So yes, I get what you're saying. And
and it's
I
very,
think you will see it as a power play in well captured movies. And stories, I think the father in the house has laid down a rule that the mother doesn't approve of. So kitchen is closed for business today. Till the father comes around and says, okay, fine. it seems like your mother is slightly male, so we'll just make changes. Because he knows the kitchen won't open till he decides otherwise. So I think that power play has been very, very subtly going on for a very long time. Yes.
Even changes in the recipes, because at the end of the day, when you travel, this is something I recently realized at another talk, that you might not be able to carry your ingredients, but you always carry your techniques. This is the
Yes.
way I make my food.
Yes. Very true.
So,
Very.
and the traditions usually in India, the way they are passed around, they tell us, how to eat and what to eat, and
When
unfortunately to some extent when to eat, and unfortunately to some extent who to eat with.
very true.
And
Very true. That
that
part is again very true.
that too is something that is passed on by the women of the family. If you look at grandma's remedies, and today we are all about grandma's remedies with the present corona times, and you're having your turmeric, you're having your karha, you're having all those things. These are grandma's remedies. Mikla, I can't see you. Are you there?
Yeah, yeah. There.
All right. So these grandma's remedies, again, it's grandma's remedies. It's kitchen and healthcare. You so at the end of the day, the your grandma might not be a doctor, but she has saved you from going to the doctor quite a lot of times.
Quite a lot of times. Yes.
And take
Like we generally say that this is the time of the year when you have saag, green saag. That is the time of
Yeah.
the year you should have a certain food. So they are remedial in their own ways. They are like need to have vitamin C, like foods with high vitamin C in the winter. So that's
Hmm.
something that we haven't learned from the book. For us, it's been like Hakuma Boleche or mom said or grandpa said that you have to have this today because it's winter or it's summer. So yeah, that does happen, and they in turn have been taught by their mothers and so on.
Even as far as I have read, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when we were a foraging society, the part of foraging, and even the tribals who forage today, the foraging part is essentially a woman's job because it's attention towards details. You have to pay attention to the details. And that is, I guess, something which is very innate in us. Hence, what goes on my plate at the end of the day is decided by the woman of the house. Even at places where they have cooks, or even for affluent houses where they had thakur who used to do the ranna, there was always a bodo ginnima from whom they used to go and take the list of things that had to be bought, that were to be prepared. So these are certain things which today you might not look at as power, but this has shaped you. This has
It
shaped
has.
me.
Each one of us, yes.
And that is empowerment to me. Yes, however, now going to the however zone, the understanding so I'll just continue. That's Mikla,
Yeah.
can you hear me now?
Yeah. No, it's fine.
So now that we women have stepped out of the house, obviously, so the society has changed. We are a nuclear family. We travel a lot. We are working. and the entire structure of a joint family has changed. We have less support than what we had at a point of time in terms of the family. However, the choice of having a liberation, you might not find it to be the liberation as such, but even the pressure cooker liberates us.
It does. So does.
So are, the understanding of liberation for me is different because I come from a very different point of view. I did not know how to cook anything for a very long time, and everything was served on a platter. And it was only when I went abroad to study and when I came back home and when my son was born, I wanted to teach him something about my heritage, me being a Bengali. And now, even my husband has aloo posto and bhat. If that is not power, then what is?
So true. So true.
We definitely, yes, having some help in the house to cook would at times help. Even if you love cooking from the bottom of your heart, there are days that you get tired of working. And those are the days that you wonder what to do and or what not to do. But that, even on those days, would you go for a Maggie or would you go for an aloo shiddo bhat?
Oh, aloo shiddo bhat. Any day. Any day, aloo shiddo bhat. Because that's, food that you grew up with. That's your comfort food. Yeah, of course, when the pickings are slim, you do choose Maggi, but essentially, if you have the ingredients, then aloo and like potato and bhat. Yes, of course.
As I just wanted to check my theories, so I had put up this thing yesterday as to what is your comfort food. I put it up on my page, on my story. And while I was looking at the comfort food, I realized that everything is somehow related to their family. Comfort food would generally come from the family. Even when somebody had put up the French poutine, Poutine. I don't know how to pronounce it. So uh, I actually spoke to them like, what are you looking at? You are looking at aloo and cheese. Is that what is you are looking at? And then it turned out that they actually look back to the cheese ka paratha.
Oh,
So
wow.
yes, because of the place that they stay today, like somebody just said khichudi. Now khichudi is something that is so close to us. However, bhogir khichudi and bari khichudi is completely different.
Very different things. Very different things.
It's mostly these days we talk about allergies, gluten allergy, this allergy, that allergy. I'm sure we did not have so many allergies at a point of time, but there have been quite a few changes in the environmental structure. The understanding of people has changed. However,
Yeah, yeah, I can.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
aloo and
yes.
cheese
Aloo
is
and peas are amazing. Are amazing. I agree. So
aloo
agree.
aloo and cheese goes for the win. But then if you look at something as aloo posto, now aloo posto, as I understand the history of aloo posto, as I understand the history of aloo posto, it was during because of our indigo farming, and most of the men were already so into they're not in a condition to work. So the women had to put something on the plate. If you ask a mother what is the most difficult job to do, it would be feed my child. And even if you come from a very affluent society or at any place, that is the first thing that a mother is looking at to feed the
That's
child.
going to be their first worry. That's going to be their last, first thing on a mother's mind, and that's the last thing on a mother's mind when she goes to bed. It's the thing in her day. What is my child eating? Has he been fed? It's like the thing that is on top of their mind all the time. So yes.
So it is nurturing a future generation. As these days they talk about food studies, especially during the lockdown, I have seen so many mothers who have gone completely into teaching their children about food because children are at home. And all the meals that they are cooking together. Like, I'm just reading the comments along, and yeah, what my day starts with what my daughter is eating today. Like,
Yeah,
that's
that's
right.
yeah. That's Divya, one of Theascape co-founders. And yes, as you were talking about her day, like every other worried mother starts with, what is my daughter eating today?
And food studies is, it might not be documented the way it is done in the Western society, but we have been teaching our children about food. Women have been teaching about even the most uh, bratty boys, as they call it, of the past. I'm quite doubtful that they exist today because I see a lot of men completely being involved in cooking, like I just told you about the dosa story, from
Yes.
paratha to dosa story. So even even their palate, even that has been affected by what their mothers have cooked for them. The day you are unwell, what is that your mother or your grandmother fed you to not only nourish you but soothe you at that point of time? I'm going to come to a very controversial topic, I believe, of ghee and milk. Now, there's a lot
Very
of things which
controversial.
very,
You
very
don't
controversial.
you don't say a bad thing about the ghee. You cannot say the bad thing about the ghee. It's like, but I know what you're saying. Nothing bad about the ghee. Always nice.
No, nothing is bad about ghee. I'm just going to tell you how things change with understanding of food. Like the kind of understanding that I had as growing up, we don't come from a place where we have a lot of milk and a lot of ghee in our daily consumption. And the understanding of ghee and milk is very, very different. But when I look at he has become a villain today, no, for me, he is not really a villain. He is like a newfound superhero. It's a very newfound love. And though I'm not talking about the ghee that you are really getting in the packages, I'm not talking about the Amul ghee because as when I got married to a North Indian family, I realized that the real ghee was made out of curd and the malai of the curd and not the milk, so as to say. So, and economy. How, if somebody has a cow, now the cow example comes. I'm not going to talk about communism and socialism. I'll be talking about.
It's a very controversial topic. Be specific,
I'm
okay?
I'm going to be very specific. There's so many things on my notes right now which I've actually crossed. No, can't talk about it. Can't talk about it. Must reserve for a different
Politically correct. You might
conversation.
be a gastronome, but you need to be politically correct. Yes.
Absolutely, I'll maintain that. Now, my husband's family comes from an agrarian society, and having a having cows meant that every part of the byproduct is going to be used. This is not only economical, it is healthy. However, this is also cultural. This is something which I choose whether it will be passed on to my son or not. My choice was to pass it on because I found it to be very practical. And like my mother calls it, the Sri Achar, the things about what the women do. The Sri Achar dictates the economy of the cow. The milk first gets. I know I'm trying to really mince my words out here.
But
We
it's
have had.
fun. It's actually fun. It's actually nice. Do go on. Do go on.
So there is the cow which will give you the milk. Now, when the milk can either be consumed just the way it is, but if you have a lot of cows, now the milk can be made into paneer. And then there comes into the controversy of whether you're making paneer or chana. Now, chana and paneer are not the same. Again, a conversation of the women. But the the idea being that the milk, when the fat and when is taken out of it, you can make ghee out of it. There is buttermilk, and the residue of everything that is left is actually used to make your atta dough.
Oh, okay.
So not a single part छान छान के पनीर बनाओ. No, assume, chana is chena, like, when you put the nimbu ka ras in the milk, and when you take it out, instead, if you hang it up and the water content is high, then it kind of crumbles. It's a crumbly cheese. Now that crumbly cheese is chana, which is also called chena. There's a term called chena in North India. It's not that I'm making it up. And when you put a heavy weight on top of that cheesecloth, and it has less water in it, then it becomes into a hard slab. The water content is much less. That is paneer. So that is the
Yes.
essential difference between chana and paneer.
The
Now,
chana is
this is not,
very crumbly actually in comparison to the paneer.
chana has a higher water content.
Yes, it does. Much higher.
So this is something which I know because my mother-in-law taught me that. This is not something passing of the tradition, pass,
Right.
passing of the culture. And what are we without our culture? Any culture. I'm not saying it can be a mixed culture. Like, we have a very mixed culture in our house. It's not. Asim is going to just, like, I'm just funny since I'm in Pune. So, yeah, Asim, welcome to Pune. But being a part of a mixed culture itself shapes our flavors differently. Every family has, in Bengal, there is an understanding that Shonibare, a lot of people on Saturday, they do not have non-veg. A lot of
There are lots
families
of
do.
days. There are lots of days depending on culturally which part I think you're from. There are people who don't have non-veg on Lokhiba, that is Thursday. And then there are people again who don't want to have it on Tuesday. But yeah, traditionally it used to be only Thursdays or Saturdays in Bengal, Ma Kali's Bar or Ma Lokhi's Bar. But with the time, because I think not just Calcutta, our country is a melting pot of different, characters, communities, and cultures. And I think Calcutta specifically has come to accept a lot of things into its stride. Uposh and Nini being the top of the list for some reason. And we have dedicated Bengali souls not eating non-veg on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, even Fridays. I think Wednesdays are the only days you can go for a biryani. But that's not. Let's leave it for another day's conversation. But yes, essentially, yes, as you were saying, it all changes because uh, like different cultures need to adopt what you think is nice. Some people like to adopt whatever is holy anywhere, whatever needs them a bit more to uh, God. So yes, there are different ways to interpret this.
No, in terms of the Saturday thing, like in my family, in my parents' house, we do not have non-veg on Saturday. However, most of the army parties used to be held on Saturdays.
God.
So, so when we came, because we were traveling throughout, my mother started having this quote saying that Videshe niyom nasti. There is no rule outside. You can do
Right.
whatever you want to do.
That is a Bengali woman's favorite choice of weapon when they just want to break the norms and eat whatever they want for one night or whatever. That and I love that. I remember whenever I thought I was, initially when you are just trying to find your taste buds and you want to try new things, and sometimes I feel like, am I breaking rules? And my grandmother used to tell me, don't worry, we need to be over us. You can do whatever when you're not here. If I can't see you, it hasn't happened. It's like Vegas theory. It just carries on, but it's been there for a long time. We just know it through different words, different set of words, I guess.
Yes, however, that was a choice that my mother took for the family. So that was not my father's choice because he continued to eat veg on Saturdays while the rest of the family went non-veg. So
We did do something like that on my mother though. That didn't really work out well for us because in the end, she bore us down to the vegetarian part of it. None of us wanted to have non-veg. Sorry, veg, and we stuck to our guns till mom just stopped cooking the non-veg, and we were like, yeah, fine, we give up. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
yes, it was a very very practical choice, and most of the times that is exactly what I think about women because most of our decisions are related to our family. And because our decisions are related to our family, we take a lot of practical decisions. We might disguise it and garb it in terms of a lot of stories and this thing because it's again a very subtle approach. Uh, that's what my understanding is that feminism comes in many sorts. Feminism, yes, standing and talking about it is definitely a way of portraying it. But there are other ways, and it is not that women have been completely silent throughout history. We have, in so many ways, made our mark visible. We, yeah, we might not have been credited for it. That is high time that we get credited for it. We are going to patent everything from now on, and I'm very pro that part of it. But so far as raising every generation, there's a reason it's called the mother tongue. It's not only about the language, but the tongue is also about your food habits. Your food habits are often, if not almost always, shaped by your mother. And
Very
that is a part that I think women need to be proud of. While we walk into other forays of life, I also feel that it's something that we need to pass on, we need to be proud of, and we need to teach the men to tell the stories so that they don't always have to be uh, making a decision with a big uh, dholki and saying that I am making a decision. You can just make a decision and be normal about it. So, and how many times have we heard this? Like, you better finish the food on your plate or you're going to end up cooking it. If you don't like my food, cook it. And like you told me, the best way for to get everything handled out is, sorry, dude, I'm not cooking. You figure out your own food. But it is high time, with since the women, our roles have changed as well. It is time that, like for me, food education for me regarding my son starts at home. I He knows how to make a roti. He knows how. That's a life skill. cooking is a life skill. It is
It's a
not.
life. It is a life skill. Very true.
So if so, as a result, you have to see the way the stories are also being passed to them, to a child. Everything said and done, this is something which I personally feel sad about. Is people when have a habit of saying when they look at a homemaker that तुमने अपनी जिंदगी के साथ कुछ नहीं किया. What did you do with your life, with all your education and everything? Look at the world today. Look at the pandemic today. I think the homemaker is extremely burdened. She is the teacher, which she already was, but now she's a full-time teacher because everything is happening at home.
Now she has finally gotten the recognition because there's somebody watching her do all those jobs that people thought she was doing. Now
Exactly.
you're watching her.
So, it is not that the homemaker is going out and earning her bread. She's baking that bread that you eat. She's baking that roti. That roti is the bread that you're eating is being baked by her. So it is by no way a job which you look down upon. How is nurturing uh, another generation? It's your own child. It's your own family, and men, as such, better learn to do that as well. It's their home as well. They live in that home as well. This is here I have to kind of look at feminism from both angles, because I just don't believe that feminism has to be one-sided. It doesn't have to be lopsided. It does not have to look down upon another woman to pull yourself up. It does not have to tell you that, if you are not working a corporate job, if you're not working a 9 to 5 job, it is not worth it, that you are giving into the patriarchy. When you're working in a corporate job itself, you might have a boss who's a man. So would I say that you're walking into patriarchy? It's my choice. Feminism gives me a choice. Feminism tells me that I can choose where I want to be. If I find my independence in my kitchen, so be it. If I find my independence at work, working 9 to 5, so be it. And I'm sure that even the lady who's working 9 to 5 outside, that's not the only job she's doing. She would have to come back and she would take care of other things as well. And the woman who's in the house being a homemaker and taking all the kitchen decisions as we were talking about it, even she has a lot more on her platter than just that. Women need to learn to support each other rather than have a very blanket understanding of feminism, so as to say.
That's something we were talking about yesterday when we were in conversation with Asha a few days ago. Our co-founder Vidya was actually in conversation with her, and we were discussing that it is often very misconstrued that feminism is of the men. It's not about men. It's not that men are against feminism. It's patriarchy that is against feminism. So we have to recognize that. And men are not the only forebearers of it. There are women who are also enforcing that. So feminism is not, as we were discussing, it's not about a gender, a bias. It's about the thought process and how we need to change it. And see, as you were saying, as women, we are not supposed to, and we should not bring other women down. And I think that is what has become essential to understanding it. Feminism is actually the choice that I should have if I want to be home happy and to be on the top of a mountain as a mountain climber. That choice should be there for me, and it should be there for me alone to decide that what do I want to do. society or its norms cannot tell me where I should be. And if it is the kitchen where I decide to change things and take the reins and change history, then it is where it is. And a man or a woman or anybody unbiased should not be the one telling me what to do. That is what it's about, basically, I think.
I am changing the world, even if it's one life at a time, even if it's shaping one uh, human, one little human, to understanding the amount of work that his mother does and teaching him to respect the work that the mother is doing. I might not be changing the world in a bigger way, but I'm sure that even that little bit has its own contributions.
Very true.
I will not take names because I did not ask the gentleman for his permission regarding taking his name. But there is a certain teacher of mine, and I consider him to be my teacher. And he often talks about his mother. His mother was an archaeologist as well. And however, for certain reasons, she did not continue with it. And she went on to raise the children, and she had a catering job. And she loved her food. She loved cooking food, and she knew her food by the back of her hand. She has a book to herself. But while she was cooking, she was telling them stories about all the historical finds. And the gentleman today is one of the leading archaeologists in India. And his favorite topic is culinary history. And he's the way things have, and he often quotes his mother. And he teaches us. So it is her stories in the kitchen that is, in a way, teaching me. And it gives me hope. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes,
I'm
yes,
kind of
I can, totally, I can. It's such a beautiful thing you said. It's culinary anthropologist. Yes,
yeah,
it's such
because
a beautiful thing you said that it's beautiful actually.
it's a butterfly reaction, and we are all doing our bit. We are all trying our little, and we are all trying to make our difference. And as women, whether we in the kitchen, whether we eating together, whether we supporting each other, that's the best way to do it. I'll just take one more minute to tell you about a small kitchen story. It's about food and menstruation. Generally, it is said that women were not allowed to enter the kitchen when they are in their months. At a
Yeah.
point of time, that was the thing. However, how women support women is that it would be a woman who would. I know this story because again I did not take permission. I will not take the names. They, it was her grandmother-in-law who was subjected to this. When she came into the house, she grandmother-in-law was like, "Don't worry about it. The men don't come to know, and we don't care."
That is so progressive. That is amazingly progressive. And see, this one woman had made it easier for other women in her family to, like to feel accepted and to feel like it's okay to be a woman. That is what is wonderful. And I do get that. I had a pretty liberal upbringing, and a lot of people in my grandmother's age group are very, very close-minded. But I do appreciate what the story you just shared because it does resonate somewhere. Growing up, I used to hear stories that a lot of things were a taboo at home because grandma said no. But in our house, it was very different. That's where we were talking about. That's where the part regarding the patriarchy and the feminism comes in. There are women who are empowering the journey through this difficult time for every woman around. And then there are people who hold us back. So it should be an effort, it should be a joint effort to make sure that nobody goes unappreciated. We are all contributing to the bigger picture in our own ways.